Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. I am your host, Janet Sandberg. I am a life coach, Reiki master teacher, and intuitive channel helping you figure out who you are, why you're here, what's holding you back, and how to move forward with clarity, confidence, grace, and ease. And I am also a mental health advocate and host of this podcast. Today, we are talking to the beautiful Robin Hauser. Robin, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me join and be here with your audience.
Of course, of course. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I have been a mental health therapist for over 20 years. I started working actually in a camp as a grief counselor for siblings of children that have had cancer. Currently, we're dealing with cancer. And realized early on that I loved and felt honored with being trusted in very difficult spaces for people. Even in high school, I would have people randomly share information with me unsolicited that I would be blown away after they would walk away. Like, oh my gosh, that was a really big deal. But they must know that I'm a safe person to talk to, because I would not ever think of using anybody's difficulties, struggles, information, secrets to be used against them or to share with anybody else. There's always been an understanding for me, or a very strong ethical understanding, that if somebody shares with you, that is a privilege and not
Absolutely.
to be taken lightly. And so that was always a responsibility that I felt very true to. And again, just that view of it as of a privilege, and not, oh, there's somebody else dumping on me or anything like that. It always felt like a privilege that people have felt safe with me. And so I've worked in emergency shelters. I've worked in residential facilities. I have worked in homes with delinquent youth and a lot of court cases, difficult areas. And once I was pregnant with my husband and my first baby, he was like, no more. I listened to the news and I know where the gunshots were today. And you don't even have to tell me, but I know that you know, like you cannot. So I thought, well, now I have to be grown up and boring. But and it felt like at home for me. It felt like I got to experience these beautiful humans that were stuck in places that made them feel less than. And I got to bring hope to them. I got to bring a different perspective to them in their own home. And that felt really incredible. And bringing that information, not just to my clients, but to their family members too. So I really enjoyed doing that. And then private practices, EAPs, and then ran the only day treatment facility in the United States for children ages 2 through 8 that had been kicked out of daycares and schools. And originally we had bought it as a franchise, and it was to modify behaviors, but our group was able to recognize, and then I became the director very quickly, that this was trauma and not behaviors.
Absolutely.
And that was incredible. We were we were the only facility in the area that started working with other big agencies. We have a place called Project Harmony. They work with children that have reported sex abuse, and worked with the police officers, worked with the court systems, and then with our school systems around us. We would help build IEPs, 504 plans, things like that, because we also had a level 3 school within our facility with teachers that simultaneously would help get these kids back up to grade level so that we could integrate them back into their school systems and their daycares and so forth as well. So
Beautiful.
it was working on trauma. It was working with the families. It was full wraparounds. We had local universities studying us because of the data we collected every 15 minutes. All of their treatment plans were very individualized. So it was incredible. It was amazing. And then things turned sideways and I got into private practice, and that sometimes we get, the universe just pushes us out kicking and screaming because it knows that there's a next step. I wasn't ready, but it was. Opened a private practice right before COVID hit. So that was interesting.
But you can still do that over Zoom.
And that's, yes, I was like, okay, well, we got to look at where the silver lining is. Let's see what we've learned from it. So I've always felt very blessed with the clients that I've had, and everyone was amazing. I still did in person because working with trauma, I'm trained in EMDR, and I like doing that best in person. So everybody was on their honor system and did great. If it was, today is not the day, I'm not coming in, or I don't feel well, or I've tested positive, whatever, then we're doing Zoom because we need to keep going and we need to keep everybody safe. So that was phenomenal. Obviously there were precautions in place, but to have a group like that and to have women showing up with that much respect for themselves and for me and for the clients that they didn't even know that I had, but to make sure everyone could continue to access me for care was phenomenal. So I, after working with children, realized that I needed to work with the women. I needed to work with the moms. I needed to be able to look at generational healing. And that really propelled me forward with then getting into coaching, because these women are phenomenal and they would heal and they'd be like, okay, so now how do I function in the world through a lens of not my trauma, not my history, like, but who I know I am now. And I was like, that's coaching. Like, I got to figure that out. So that's where I went with that. I've told my clients, I don't want you to outgrow me. I don't want you to need me. I want you to walk out of here at any time and say, okay, that was great. I've got what I need and I'm not dependent on anybody to continue my journey. But also I love to learn. So if I don't have the answer, I'll find it, or I'll tell you I don't know, and we will find the person who does.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're doing both. And it's a really important distinction that, you know, therapy and counseling, that works on healing the past, right? But in order to move forward, that's not what therapists do. That's what life coaches do. So you do need both. You know, you need to heal the past, but then sometimes you also need somebody to walk beside you and help you, now that you have this new understanding of yourself and this healed version of yourself, somebody to help you move forward. So yes. I love that you're doing both.
Thanks.
Yeah. But you were not always the person who was giving help. Sometimes you wouldn't be here if you hadn't needed help at some point. So share with us that story. What happened?
I tell my clients that I don't teach them, talk to them, walk through things with them that I don't know myself. I think it's important for my clients to understand that, like, I'm speaking their language. I understand without them having to say everything, because that is not what I learned in a textbook. That's what I learned personally. I am adopted. I was adopted at 2 days old. I'm an only child. I grew up in Miami, Florida. My parents had a midlife crisis and we moved to the Midwest and lived on a farm with my mom's parents. And I was the only kid with now 4 parents. Hence the understanding of generational healing. Everyone had some mental health, and mom definitely went through periods of being suicidal, high anxiety, very low self-worth. And I didn't know, I knew, but I didn't know until maybe a week or so before she passed, from one of her best friends who shared with me that she had a history of sexual abuse. And this best friend was the only one that knew. And I said, this all makes sense. It makes sense as to who she married. And it makes sense as to how she spoke to me and what she taught me as a young woman growing up. It made sense as to how she talked about her granddaughter. But there was never a conversation her and I got to have, but I watched her live her life with that secret and never having a chance to heal it.
Yeah.
I was molested by a babysitter when I was 5. My father, who is still alive, and I now take care of him. He's elderly and has dementia, but would say things to me. There was a lot of grooming that I paid for you. I have a receipt for you. I can do whatever I want to you.
Oh my gosh.
So that shaped my belief system about my value.
Absolutely.
And how to gain validation, a lot of body image issues, and just living in a house with a lot of depression, grandparents who lived through the Great Depression and wars and things like that, living in fear and scarcity and PTSD and all the things, and being the person that's so aware of all of it, but can't do anything about it. You're a teenager. And moving from Florida and coming to the Midwest, I had done homeschooling for 2 years. We traveled around the United States in the motorhome for 2 years before I went into high school, and I was a weirdo. Having grown up in Miami, I was a minority where I lived. So coming to the Midwest, I have backpacked through Europe too and studied abroad for college, but moving to the Midwest was the most culture shock I'd ever had. I was like, Mom, everybody's white. Like, where's the other people? I'm very confused here. Like, I feel weird. So it got to a point where I was wearing sweats to bed at night so I could just roll out of bed in the morning. And that's what I got on the bus with. I did amazing at school. Straight A's, graduated with a 4.0, but that was my outlet. Art was my outlet. And I would definitely, there was so many years I would just wake up every morning just in a rage. I was pissed that God let me wake up. I was pissed that I was still in this. I was still stuck in this. There was no way out of this. And at one point, I started antidepressant, and it is no longer on the market. It would cause seizures, and my parents would hold me down while I was seizing, and my mom would be on the phone with the doctor, like, what do we do? And he would just say, well, she'll eventually get over that. Keep giving it to her. So stayed on that.
It's just a little side effect. It's fine.
Seizures. Definitely when you've got low self-worth, you're picking people who also have low self-worth, and those are not the people who are going to make you feel good about yourself. So very first serious relationship and boyfriend, I lost my virginity, and it was not my choice. And there were no cell phones at that time. So if I came home late, my mom was calling hospitals, wondering if I'd been admitted, if something had happened to me. And I finally left that relationship by going to college, and he still found me, and that was a nightmare. But in college, I was finally free. I get to establish my own identity. I get to find my own friends. I get to say yes to what I want to say yes to. I'm not stuck in this stigma of, oh, she's the new girl. We're all new. Like, high school was finally done. I had friends teach me in high school how to self-harm. So I was definitely doing that as well. And at one point, right before I left, my mom had finally said, let's go to therapy. And I did. And that was the most horrific experience in my life. I told her, I will commit suicide if you send me to that person again. They are horrible. I am telling them why I am depressed, and they are telling me it's because I'm adopted and we have to work on posters as to why I hate my biological mom.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. It's crazy. And I again was like, if I ever get to become a therapist, I know what not to do.
Yeah,
like,
don't
you have to
project
listen-
your own issues on somebody else.
Yes. Yes. So not helpful. None of this was helpful. So there was a point, I remember there was a night where my parents had gone out, grandparents, wherever they were. We weren't living in the same house, but we were on the same property. And it was just, I was kind of done. I was done. It was all very hard. And I was just like, well, I know where my dad's gun is. And with this, we're done. We're done. I'm done. Like, I cannot. I'm exhausted. This is too heavy. I can't get the help I need. Here's this medication, but whatever. I can't get out of the relationship I'm in because I would need a restraining order, and my parents will never do this. This is too much for them. It's too much for me. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot do that to my parents. I cannot. They will be the people who find me.
Right.
And that is selfish. Not me saying I'm done, but me making that decision that would then be something they would have to live with for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I cannot do that to them. And so I have to figure out how to stay. Like, I have to figure out how to find the difference between the hell and creating a life for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That there has to be something good. There has to be something better than this. Like, if I'm committed to stay here and I am stuck here, the idea of eternity seems much longer to me than this idea of being here on earth. So had to make a decision then, had to make a decision in college once the medication stopped working and I started having suicidal ideation all over again, and I could not figure out why. And I quit taking it, and the doctor said, we can get you a new one. And I thought, great, I'm how far away from my family with this other freshman roommate who's trying to figure out life just like I am, and I'm going to make her responsible for whatever side effects potentially would come from a new med. Like, no, that does not seem appropriate either or reasonable. So that was another choice then. Okay, I have to figure this out outside of medication. I have to figure this out somehow on my own. And that's where I started, without realizing it, working on a gratitude practice, which is something I've later taught to my clients. And I've done research, and I didn't realize I was actually actively on my own changing my brain chemistry by doing that.
Yeah, you were way ahead of the curve on that.
I had no idea. But I was like, I'm going to soak in moments and like breathe them in for a breath that I need for later when it feels like it's too hard to breathe and it's too heavy. And then fast forward, end of college, I was in a relationship that I ended up getting married, and it was not fantastic either. And found myself very lost in that relationship, trying to save this other human. And there were several times then where it was like, I'm just going to pull the car in the garage and that's it. I'm done. And other moments. And I just thought, you know what? I said better for worse, but I don't even know who I am anymore. And that's going to be detrimental to me and not worth, this promise is not worth my life, because that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And so divorced, and definitely went through again some very big lows of self-worth and put myself definitely in the wrong groups of people, and encountered somebody that then there was date rape, and I conceived my first child.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew immediately, because I'm adopted, that I at least had the ability to give somebody then a gift that they weren't able to give themselves. And I was not in a place, as I'm finalizing a divorce, I'd lost my grandma, who was my closest human on earth, that I'm completely adored and loved, and she loved me. And was trying to help take care of her at the end of her days and starting my own licensing. I had finally finished my master's, trying to figure out how to get my feet under me, living on my own, all the things. And I just thought, okay, I am not ready to give this small human the life that she deserves. And so I know there's a family out there. Found that family right away. That was amazing. And gave her up for adoption, and then met my husband now of 17 years. 3 months after I gave her up for adoption.
Wow.
And we got married, we got pregnant, we miscarried, we got pregnant again, and that's my first child. And she was born with a knot in her umbilical cord, and the doctor said, hey, she shouldn't even be alive. I'm like, sweet. She's amazing. She is a force. She is leap years above me. And then we had our second, and he was turned the wrong way, and just amazing. And had to live with him. And then we had, what we did not know is that I have Hashimoto's, but that took many years later to diagnose. And so when I was pregnant, I would develop blood clots. And so 2 miscarriages after that, 2 stillborns after that. The second stillborn was 30 weeks, and I ended up flatlining after delivering because I had bled out with blood clots so bad that I almost needed a blood transfusion. So I told my husband, we're done. We are all done. I would like to be here to raise our 2 beautiful children. They are healthy. They are amazing. And this is crazy, but he can sneeze on me and I get pregnant. So I said, you need to it's your turn. Go get some surgery. Well, Mr. Superman, a year and a half later, even though we were cleared, grew it back, and I was pregnant again. And I was pissed. Yeah. I was about to turn 40. I was getting my body back after all those years of having babies and being pregnant. And this was like, I'm going to age backwards. I had my career going. I had all these things. And then I was mad. I had to go through healing to get over not bringing all of these babies home, the guilt as a mom, the sense of responsibility that I failed in some way. And how does everybody else get to keep having babies? How do these moms that have had their children taken away from them that I'm helping reunify, and they're getting pregnant again, and they get to keep their babies, they get to have their babies, and I don't? None of this makes sense. It's not fair. There's no deserving or not deserving.
No.
Lots of emotion around that. And so 35 weeks, I finally let some baby stuff into the house, and 40 weeks, he was born. And my poor husband had to tell the nurses, he's like, she will love him eventually. And I'm like, I'm just so mad. Normally you have 9 months to be ready for this. And I spent 9 months not getting attached because, that's a hell.
Yeah.
That's a hell to go through. I didn't know if we were both going to make it or just one of us or what was going to happen. So he's amazing. He's amazing. Everybody's amazing. Told the doctor, you're going to cut whatever you need to cut out of me because we are not doing this again. I'm all done. I've had 8 pregnancies. I'm good. I know how to do this. And so it took a couple years later to figure out the Hashimoto's. And that was after getting my mom through COPD and taking care of her and her passing away, and then having to take over care for my father who's got dementia. And I had to figure out how to heal through being in a relationship with him, because that was hard. And it took a dramatic toll on my body. So I tell my clients, nothing's off the table, and I am the last person on earth to judge, because I've been through it, and there are still times, especially going through what I've gone through with my mom and my dad, that as I will move the earth for my children. I do not take them for granted after everything I have been through, but life is heavy. Life is heavy and it's hard. And there's still moments where I'm just like, okay, I'm good. I think I got it. I know. I like, what else is there?
Yeah. Don't ever ask that question because you'll find out.
It's very,
Don't ask
yes.
it in the sarcastic way. Ask it in the open, curious, inviting way. What else is there?
Sorry.
Right.
Yes.
But
Truly.
I don't think we talk about, and I'm pretty sure we haven't on the podcast, talking about how hard it is to heal yourself when you're caring for other people. Like not just kids, but like when you're caring for an ill parent or somebody else in your family, and all of your resources are going to taking care of other people, and then you have to heal yourself on top of that. Because I did the same thing. I left an emotionally and multiple abusive marriage.
Yeah.
But when my sister had cancer at the time, so I was going through that. My dad also had cancer. So when my marriage was at the end, my dad and my sister both had cancer at the same time. I left the marriage, and then my sister died a year-ish later. And then, so I was like grieving her, but trying to heal myself. And then a couple of years after my sister died, my mom was diagnosed with dementia. So then we're trying to navigate, the grief, but there's also when your parent or somebody you love has dementia, they also don't talk about. That's a slow grieving process as you slowly lose them while they're still alive. Like that's a whole thing. While I'm still trying to heal myself from this marriage and raise my kids, and like sometimes there's just so much going on, and we don't talk about, healing is hard at the best of times. Like when you have a supportive spouse and somebody to help, and everybody else in your life is healthy, it's still hard to heal yourself. But when you've got no resources left because everybody else has got stuff going on, it takes longer.
It does. It takes longer than somebody who, when you're the one that is taking care of everybody in general, you're the one that's also the rock.
Mm-hmm.
In general, you're the one that has very high standards for yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of asking for help, that idea of even saying like, I can't,
Mm-hmm.
for
Not an
me,
option.
it felt like not an option. And it was me agreeing that this was all too much. And that pissed me off because I was like, I did not pick all of this. I do not want all of this. And if I have to say I can't do it, that means I've actually let it take too much of me. I've let it decide for me, and I refuse. I don't know if that's the stubbornness in me or what that is, but man, it's very hard then to say like, I can't. And I think it's also terrifying when you're that person that if I say I can't, then who is? And does that almost out loud give me permission to set it all down? And if I set it all down, then what will happen? Then how much more of a mess is there going to be once everybody realizes they can't do it the way that I do it, and I have to come back in and clean it all up? It's like that. Just keep your head to the ground and be in survival mode, and we're just gonna get through it. But you become a shell of a person. And
like what you just said, that thought, which is totally untrue. But if I rest for a little bit, there's going to be twice as much to do when I come back. So I'd rather just keep like plowing through at the level that we are now. But obviously you can't handle that. Like you're not performing at your best either. So even if there's more when you come back from the rest, you're better able to deal with it. But
yes,
our brains
yes,
don't like to let us believe that.
no, 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 absolutely not. Yeah, and I think finding the right, even if it's just one person to witness you through that, if you can just find one person, it makes you feel seen and validated. And for me, that was my husband. He did an amazing job. And I was like, I'm not looking for anybody to fix this. There's no fixing this. I'm just looking for somebody to say, like, you're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. You're doing a good job. I'm walking with you. I'm not carrying you. I'm not telling you you're not capable. I'm not taking over. I'm with you. I'm with you for whatever you need. If you need to scream, if you need to cry, if you need to vent, if you need to cuss about something, whatever. At one point in my mom's care she was stage 4 COPD and heart failure and kidney failure, and she got COVID. Oh. And she was on life support, and I was her medical person, and I had to keep telling her mom and her sister and her friends and my father, like, this is where we're at today. This is where we're at today. And we got to day 8, and the doctors were like, you're going to have to make a decision. We will keep her till day 10, and then that's it. And she woke up day 9. And I sat there and I was like, I cannot imagine the weight that any other human carries when they have to be the one that makes that decision for a loved one. Mm-hmm. Like there's things in life you can't describe until you've been through them. You cannot describe those feelings. And so that was a lot too. And I think having gone through all the things, it gave me evidence and reminded me of what I'm capable of. And that allowed me then to start being more verbal about setting my boundaries and not feeling guilty if I was like, I have to say no to something and I don't even need to explain why. Like, I'm freaking done. I'm toast. And I think one of the biggest pivot points for me was somebody explaining that just because your calendar has space in it does not mean that is space to fill. Like, that's recovery time. That's eating time. That's nap time. That's whatever. Like, that's your healing
hobby
time.
Like, whatever.
Right? Yes. That's not I can say yes to baking cookies or watching somebody else's kid or what. Like, it's a no. No is a full sentence. And I think that really, it was with all of that, I finally started to just say, like, okay, so if I don't pick me, it's going to be bad for everybody.
Yeah.
And that allowed the spaces then, those tiny little incremental spaces for some of the healing and that introspection of, okay, actually, you're pretty powerful. Actually, people do need you. So that means you do get to decide where your energy is going to be focused and how much you need to still take care of you, still do whatever work it is. For me, it was spirituality that I had to keep putting myself in these containers so that I could keep re-energizing, rebuilding, remember purpose and those things, because it's very easy to get lost during those times. It's very easy to say, what's the point? And when is this going to end? And what day are we even on?
Yeah. I have so many things in my head all at once. So one sort of more closely related to what you were just saying, during the pandemic, I couldn't see my usual therapist, so I had to find one that I could see over Zoom. And it took us 2 intakes because I had such like two full sessions for the intake to give her like my whole background of all the stuff that I had been through and was going through and everything. And at the end of that second session, where I finally like got up to the present day, she paused and she looked at me and she was like, "That's a lot. Like, are you aware of like how much you've been through, are going through? Like, for one person, that's a lot." And having a professional tell me that, who had heard some stories and seen some things, for her to be like, "I need your full attention when I tell you this." And that allowed me to finally be like, oh, like you said, like, oh, it is a lot. And I'm still here. So not only I've been through all that stuff, I've also survived all the thoughts that I don't want to be here. So I'm like, okay, and it gave me a different perspective and gave me that permission to start saying no, to start taking care of myself a little bit more and be like, oh, I'm sure everybody's life is like this. Like, why am I so bad at handling life? Like you're not bad at handling life. Like, you'd handle a normal life perfectly fine.
We wouldn't know what to do with a normal life.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, you've been through so much, like, it's okay to take care of yourself and remember how strong you are. So I love that perspective that you also sort of brought up to the forefront there, that we can take, not like I'm weak for having considered ending my life, but I am strong for overcoming that and still being here.
And it's a choice. It's a hard choice. And I had a client the other day who was like, I actually decided at a moment that this is not who I am. I don't want my family to think this is who I am. I am in a hard situation.
Yes.
I don't know how to get out of this situation, but this is not who I am. This is a situation I am in, but this is not who I am as a human. And it was that in that moment for her, it was like, okay, then I'm ready to move forward to get to where I know who I am gets to actually live my life. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really profound too. It's that soul inside of us that at some point says, like, this isn't it. And we don't have an answer for that. We don't have a future forward for that, but there's like a calling inside of us that's like, nope, you gotta stay. You have to stay. Mm-hmm. And again, I would get real angry at that. I'd be like, no, actually we don't. Do we see what's going on? We don't. No. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna keep going. But I would say another big thing, I know I dealt with this and I didn't realize until I was working with my clients that they would say I didn't think I really need to come in and do therapy or talk to somebody because in comparison, my life isn't as bad as some people. Or when we talk about trauma, well, other people have had it worse. So I just figured like I should be able to figure this out. And going through trauma training and especially working with children, I was able to teach my clients then, and I've definitely talked about this in other spaces, that you and I can be in the same car. We can get in the same car accident. You can walk away and say, okay, well, that was inconvenient, but nobody got hurt. I'm getting a cool car rental tomorrow. Good thing I've got insurance, and whoever's going to fix my car, thank God the tow truck got here on time. Like, go about my day. I can go home from that same accident and stay in my house and say, I am never leaving again. The world is scary. Everything is out of control. That was horrific. Like, I can't even wrap my brain around it. And now I am crippled. And making sure people understand that it's not the thing. It's your brain's inability to process the thing that makes it a trauma. It's not a, this is worse, this is better. It's never that. If it's affecting you, it's a trauma for you. And that means just go in and figure it out, talk it through, have somebody help you shift it so that you can actually go back to living your life. And it doesn't have to be shaped by this thing that happened however many years ago. And that, I think, for a lot of us too, that are so used to being the ones that just do all the things and are the go-to person, that it's like an assumed, well, you're not allowed to be affected by anything. Nothing affects you. You're so strong. You just get through. And I have to remind my clients too, I'm like, nobody's asking you if you need help because you do this so well. You make it look easy. Good job on you, but don't be mad when somebody's not asking you if you need help. Like, you actually have to tell people, because no one thinks that you're struggling. You do it effortlessly.
Yeah. Did you have anyone before your husband, when you were, in college and you were going through a lot of hard times and the suicidal ideations, did you have someone to talk to then?
I had my mom, and it was interesting because she was my best friend at one point. And then once I really started with my healing work, after my firstborn was born, my physician assistant at that time, when I came in for my first checkup after having a baby, I adored her. And I know God puts people in our lives, universe, source, whoever, to bring us messages, to remind us of our value. And she was like, you need to go see a therapist. And I was like, I'm that messed up? You know how messed up I am? And she's like,
it's showing? Is my messed upness showing?
From my mask? Wow. And she was like, you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot. I don't want you to think that this is as good as it gets for you. You have so much more, and you need somebody to show you that. And so
Wow.
I truly, that therapist was amazing. That therapist I saw maybe a handful of times, but she introduced me to the book, Letting Go of Shame. And that changed everything for me. And she'd asked me originally, she's like, can you just sit in your house quiet? Can you sit and be with yourself? And I was like, what weirdos do that? Like monks. Like, I can do it with some music on and like move around and like maybe do some dishes or something. She's like, no, like sit and be with you. And I'm like, oh, no, that is crazy. I can now and I love it. But at that time I could not imagine.
Yeah.
And so from there though, I outgrew my mom quickly, and it was painful. It was painful, especially having children, to see where she stopped growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was so much then I could not share with her, and I could not bring her with me. And so there's a lot of anger and grief. And so similar to like somebody who has dementia, she didn't have dementia, but she had an emotional stop. And so there were big things happening in my life that I could not talk to her about. And even our first stillborn that we delivered, my husband's like, your mom is calling, you have to talk to her. Your mom is calling. I was like, I cannot talk to her. Like, no. He's like, you have to. I know she's terrified. And I'm like, she won't have the right words. And I'm adopted. She's never even been pregnant before. And so I got on the phone with her, and in the conversation of how are you, she never came to visit. Mind you, she lived 10 minutes away from me. And in that conversation, while I'm still sitting on this bed where I had delivered this baby, she was like, well, are they going to do studies on it to see why that happened so other people don't have that happen? Like, are they going to do study procedures on it? And I was like, I handed the phone back to my husband. I was like, I cannot. And so, and here's my father, who, women are for men. they finally did come see me, and he grabbed my stomach and he was like, "Why are you still so fat? There's no baby in there." That's what I grew up with.
Oh.
So it was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard. And I told my husband I will have a better relationship with my mom once she passes than I can have with her on earth. I just can't. I cannot get through to her. So I had her for a bit. I had her through my divorce. I had her up until I had that first baby, and she was very upset that I gave her up for adoption. And then I had a best friend, and then we grew apart because of religious differences, and that was hard too. So
Mm-hmm.
I think also just being a woman and going through difficulties with other women and losing relationships and friendships, and how some of those things show up sometimes too, it makes it hard to, as a woman, feel like you can reach out, you can ask for help, because a lot of times it's hard to find other women who know the right words, who understand. Yeah. And you're like, if I'm already going to speak about it, even though I'm already going through it, that takes energy too. And if it's going to be not worth my while to share, that's hard.
100%. Yeah. Before we end off, what little bit of advice would you give to somebody who was struggling with suicidal ideation right now?
Gosh. I just think about in those days where I would hear people say, "Have a blessed day." I'm like, oh, I'm gonna flip you off. God put me here, so I don't want to hear about blessings. And those, just wake up in the morning grateful, be grateful you're alive. No, that is not where I am at right now. That's not where I'm at. For me, it was nature. Because it offered a sense of there's something more. Mm. And it was then that led me to the path of spirituality, because I'd also had a yucky history with religion, and I needed to be able to find a relationship that felt individualized and real and mine, with a higher power, because earth is heavy. Earth is so full of all the generational and society heaviness, and we truly cannot put our value in another human being's hands to say, "I see you." There are those amazing humans that are capable of that, but in general, everybody is struggling in some way, and they can't offer that sense of, "I see you, you're amazing," if they don't feel that for themselves. Mm-hmm. And so asking for validation in other humans, it gets real tricky. And it doesn't mean they don't care about you. It doesn't mean they don't love you in their own way. It just means that they potentially also are in a place where they're not at the place that you are to be able to say what you need to hear. And so nature did it for me. Nature was like evidence of there are miracles, evidence that there's something bigger. And even to this day, when I need to like find my neutral point, when it is all very hard, loud, heavy, confusing, exhausting, my husband's always like, "If we can't find you in the house, you're with the weeds. You're pulling weeds somewhere. You're with the flowers." And there would be times like with my depression, like kind of slowly coming out of it. Like I said, the gratitude, it was taking moments literally at the grocery store to go shove my face in some flowers. Like, okay, I'm going to breathe this in right now. It was, I have to find a way to connect with something bigger than me, because I'm not enough right now. And I need something else that feels true, that feels like love, to help pull me, to help keep me going. And it took a little bit. But it was that sense of, where are the miracles? Where's the love? Where's the possibility? What can I suck in and hold on to so that I can get to the next moment?
Mm-hmm.
And the space in between then grew shorter and shorter. And that was what was very helpful for me, because I was in control of what I wanted to focus on, what I wanted to breathe in. And that was not an outside deal then. That wasn't based on other humans. That wasn't based on, oh, this amazing, happy event's going to happen. Well, half the time, those are exhausting. It was these quiet moments between me and nature that really did it for me. And that felt expansive. And that is still the thing I come to every time. I'm like, really, actually, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would say that.
Beautiful. I love it. And yeah, it's important. And I also love, how so many people are like, well, what if I live in an apartment building in the middle of a huge city? Like, there's no nature, not easily accessible. There are parks, but sometimes they're just like a block and you can see the city on the other side of them. You don't really feel like it. But yeah, you can bring houseplants into your apartment. You can buy flowers at the store and bring them home. Or just, like you said, stick your face in them when you're still at the store if you can't afford to bring them home. And I had a client one time when we were talking about this, and I said, buy a little bag of potting soil and a little plastic bin and pour the soil in the bin and stick your bare feet in it and close your eyes and listen to some nature sounds, and it's almost the same thing. So you can get creative with the nature if you're not actually physically near it and you don't have time to like drive 2 hours to get out of the city to go find some. So
100%. Yes. Yeah. And it, for me, even if it's a flower, it's like there's life right there.
Yeah.
There's life, and I get to watch that unfold, and that is for me too. I just have to pick me.
Yes.
To be able to walk into that, because nobody's gonna come save you. You are your own person. Everybody else is doing their own stuff. So it's like, what reminds you of how important you are? What reminds you of the possibilities when you don't know yet?
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robin, so much for being here today and for sharing your story and your insight and your wisdom with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.